Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. How is everybody doing? Welcome back on VCTV, Venture Capital TV from La Token. Another week, another Monday. I'm very excited to host VCTV as always. So today we're going to discuss about smart city funding and how public and private can both work together. When I say public, it's the governments and the private sector can work together in launching successful smart cities. So yes, that's the topic. Before I start introducing the speakers, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director based here in Singapore, regional director of La Token based here in Singapore. And I host VCTV Monday till Friday, 8 p.m. fixed time. So welcome back. So can I have the speakers on my screen, please, so that I can address them and introduce them? Thank you so much. So today I am joined by Sailesh from India. Hi, Sailesh. Welcome back on VCTV. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
And background, and then we move to other speakers. Thank you, Sailesh.
Sure. Thanks, Sonny, for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on Vlatkin VCTV. It's always a great experience interacting and engaging with fellow colleagues across the globe. So Ansel is early stage growth speed scaling ecosystem. We invest and help startups across the globe scale up in media tech, urban tech, health, media, consumer lifestyle. And from a pre-series A to all the way to series B, we invest in them, help them with market access, sales, marketing, distribution channels, as well as business modeling. And we also help them with follow-on rounds of investment, wherein we truly become their speed scaling partner until they exit. So urban tech is a strong focus for us, especially in this year, given that we've just had our yearly budget in India launch, and we are quite excited to be in this space at this point in time. Thank you.
Fantastic. Talking about the budget, we'd like to know what happens to cryptocurrency. Are they going to ban private cryptocurrencies, as we see in the news? Okay, we can talk about it later. Thank you, Sailesh, for that intro, and welcome back on VCTV. Next, I have William. Hi, William. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Sonny, Gary, and today I met a new friend, Sailesh. Right, Engineers House is a financial services company. We evolved into a family office last year because I'm stuck in Kuala Lumpur. I can't travel, and 90% of my income comes from overseas services. Right, so we instead of that, we actually evolved into a family office that focus on sustainable investing. Okay, so we are into ESG investments. We are into agriculture. All right, energy. And today we are actually trying to build a smart city. All right, but it was delayed due to the COVID. But I'm happy to share more about it later. Thanks.
Yes, interesting. And welcome back, William. Thank you so much for that intro. Now I can see Gary. Hi, Gary. How was your weekend? Welcome back. Happy Monday.
I went bicycling just like you. I was bicycling at the park.
Right.
Having fun. Yep.
Right.
And I saw your pictures. I saw video by the beach somewhere, actually.
Yes, that's correct. I did a tour from my house all the way to the park, then to the beach, and back. Yeah, that's my weekend.
And did you have fun?
Oh, yes. I always love nature, and, I did have fun. Yes.
That's great. It's great. Well, it's great to be here. Nice to see Sailesh. William, I've seen many times. You, Sonny, and Carol in the background. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, co-founded or been involved with 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion 21 months ago. And also I'm the co-founder of Viva, one of the top AI HR tech companies on the planet today. And because of the pandemic, we do remote workforce management, companies booming. Also, I'm an investor. Privately, I have my money in a small fund. Actually, I guess a relatively medium-sized fund. And I also privately invest in myself and interesting pre-IPO opportunities. We have a $100 million impact fund that we're building today, and a $10 million seed fund that we built a few years ago. I love artificial intelligence and quantum computing, so I'm looking forward to that. And smart cities, I just had Samir Sharma, who's the general manager worldwide for Intel on smart cities and IoT. So I've had some interesting insights, so I look forward to our incredible panel today.
Absolutely. We'd like to know what you're going to share on smart cities as well. Thank you, Gary, and welcome back. Great. So talking about smart cities, just to give you a perspective and a background about what smart cities are and what we're going to discuss today in the session. Smart cities require infrastructure modernization, a high price tag proposition that can be daunting for any city. Today, we're going to discuss how innovative financing strategies are helping cities around the world transform vision into reality. Smart cities are a new concept with new technologies. Attracting investors requires a comprehensive strategic plan that clearly communicates the opportunity and presents a robust business model. A creative approach to funding and financing, new sources of revenue, new business models for recovery and value capture, and innovative financing structures for investors. This is a bit of perspective about smart cities. So I would like to open the floor with the first question: how can public and private sectors work together to create smart cities? And I would like to ask this question to Silesh.
So, Sonny, I think it's an interesting perspective, right? We all want modern technology, we all want modern infrastructure around us. But what's an interesting thought is by 2050, I believe I've read one of the reports which says number of city dwellers to their rural counterparts will be 2:1. And saddled with legacy infrastructure, limited budgets, urban areas are going to struggle to keep up with the rapid pace and growth, which results in congestion, reduced quality of life, lost economic potential, and negative health outcomes. And as per a recent survey, only 16% of cities across the globe will have the necessary capital to battle this congestion and be able to build new infrastructure. And the rest of them have to find unique ways of be it public-private partnerships where they work with the government. The government guarantees in certain way of the capital which private companies want to come up with, be it in a unique model, be it with infrastructure, highways, toll roads, be it water, sanitation projects, waste management, and even as something as simple as a building, for instance. So we've seen multiple aspects of funding, especially in India, where PPP has been the mode of infrastructure financing for at least the last decade or so. And there's been quite tremendous success as well as failure in these projects, primarily because of the acceptance of it and the way the return of investment has been planned for these projects. So it is important to also kind of own up to your own little surrounding environment, be it a city, be it a municipality, and have the citizens own up to try and create municipal bonds and have them subscribe to it. So what is missing, which is the key to all of this, is data insights. Only when anyone, be it in health case, be it in even to take a trip or to take an insurance, we need data to ensure that we understand what we're getting into. And that's what I believe is missing in most of the cities today, which is data inputs and insights. Once you have meaningful data, then you can kind of create a more interesting data set to compare and see how a project can be funded, how the money can be recovered back, and that makes a suitable case for any large contractor or the citizens itself to kind of fund the project through a municipal bond or through a PPP partnership or a new RTO model.
Perfect. I think you've summarized the mostly everything in the opening remarks. But thank you so much, Salish, for sharing that with our audience and other speakers. Next, I would like to ask William the same question. How can public and private sectors work together to create smart cities? Smart cities, and you were actually working on a similar project, but because of the COVID pandemic, I think things didn't move that fast. So, would you like to share that your insights, please? Thank you, William.
Right. Thanks, Sonny. Right, echoing from what Charlotte said just now, there's a lot of interest in smart cities. In Malaysia itself, there's a lot of private initiative. Okay, so Malaysia is very unique that the smart cities are not actually pushed by the government. It's actually by the private sector. Okay, so a lot of entrepreneurs see the opportunity and they actually look for the location that suitable for it. Okay, so I give you an example for like ourselves. Okay, I was approached by an entity of a government agency. Okay, who actually owns the land. So it's a 78 acres land in Cyberjaya, where it's just next to our administrative city. Okay, so fortunately for us, we do not need to be worried about the infrastructure because that is the Silicon Valley of Malaysia, right? And our land is actually exactly next to the highway, okay, and we are under the transit-oriented development plan, okay. So there's two stations that pass through our land. So it's a 78 acres land, all right. So what we need to do is to think of how to bring value to the land. So the partnership for us is very simple. It's a public-private partnership where the public is government, or okay, and the private is ourselves. Okay, we will join venture with the government. Okay, we need to pay a portion of the land value, okay, as commitment, and the rest will be under a joint venture proposal. All right, and our job is to develop the land. Okay, so in all, we estimate the gross development value to be 1.5 billion US, and we need to have to raise actually 700 million to 800 million of construction costs. Okay, so in terms of infrastructure, we have shortlisted two parties, and one of them is Huawei. Okay, so my partner happens to be the chief or previous chief digital officer of the country. Okay, so he used to work with the Multimedia Commission of Malaysia. So he actually arranged meetings for me with telcos and also, of course, Huawei. And we met up with Huawei several times to discuss how can they help us to build the infrastructure. Okay. And how we're going to plan the city is there will be IoT element, there will be blockchain element, there will be vertical farm, smart agriculture. So we want to build a sustainable city by itself, where perhaps a lot of stuff can be actually curated in the city itself. And one of the key components is the education from nursery all the way to universities. Okay, so for that 78 acres, we can actually build up to 10 million square feet of space. All right, so that's a lot of space for us to plan, and we have spoke to several world-renowned architect. One of them actually designed Marina Bay Sands, okay, for the project. All right. So we were very excited. We started the talk in September 2019. By November, end of November, we have the first draft for discussion. By February, we actually almost signing the MOU and the agreement to go ahead. And we have get commitment of initial investment of 50 million US from two key investors from Hong Kong and China, and we are all set. And they are supposed to come to Malaysia, visit the land, because the land is actually there already. And but before we know, Wuhan breakout, and of course the whole world stops as it is. So this is where our status is. But we still have the plans, but because of the pandemic, we have adjusted a lot of the variables or structure of the city plan. And yeah, we are still learning how to be adaptable to the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Good to know about you having another Marina Bay Sands in Malaysia. Right, perfect. Gary, now over to you. The same question: the alliance approach between the public and the private sectors working together to create a smart cities. So, what are your insights on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting because, when we have these partnerships, I can think about partnerships that have taken place in other areas like lotteries to be able to fund the senior citizens initiatives in states like Pennsylvania and Florida that have had incredible receptions and have created, senior centers where they give meals, that kind of thing. So the starting part is beautiful. But let's look at some of the things that have occurred recently. So Louisville, Kentucky, in the U.S., they actually have a private public partnership with a group called Propeller Health. And what they do is they actually monitor the city for areas that could potentially have high risk for asthma because of the city has a lot of pollution. So they actually flag it. And the beauty of this situation is not only they flag it, but they actually take some corrective action. Everything from rerouting traffic to actually planting trees in certain areas. So it's interesting how that partnership evolved. New York City, right? So New York City had a ton of phone booths, and the problem with the phone booths, kind of like London, the problem with the phone booths is that not only were the phones in them, but the city got advertising because the advertising was on the phone booths on the outside. So they didn't want to lose that, 17 million or so in advertising. So they had to think of a creative way, and people don't use phones anymore. And they don't want these obstructive booths. So what they had to do is come up with an entirely new way. So Qualcomm, Titan, and this group, Control Group, actually came out with a partnership where they have free Wi-Fi, maps, video calls, device charging inside of these new facilities. So they've really adapted, and so everybody wins. So the city derives revenue from it. It's a convenience for the public. At the same time, on the private side, they also get a revenue share. So it's beautiful. Kansas City in the U.S., another situation. Kansas City is one of the smartest cities in the U.S. So being able, again, to access the web. What we've got is that, the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. Through these kind of partnerships, the one thing about dealing with governments is they're really slow, and there's a lot of bureaucracy and BS. They don't move very quickly. So it's beautiful when it works, right? And now the situation is because the public is really driving these officials to actually move forward faster. So Kansas City, again, they split advertising revenue. So it's a revenue source. Now the good news is once you talk about that for a city, that they can make some money, it starts to make them interesting. What we have to do is this has to be a real win-win. And the cities that adapt are going to change all kinds of things. Look at Miami today. Actually, in a few weeks, I'll have the mayor of Miami on my show. Look at Miami. Miami's another example. As we talk about people moving out of Silicon Valley into other areas where there are less taxes, but they need the support. There's got to be a public-private partnership. So things like smart hubs where you can put startups in that have super high-speed internet. It's a win-win for the city in terms of job creation. It's a win-win for the private because they're able to take advantage of these incredible services and tax advantages. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that everybody's on board, and you need to find a champion. The problem is when you work with the government, a lot of times you don't have that champion. You got to find one person that has ambitions that wants to be the champion to be able to help you get through the bureaucracy. So I'm really excited about it because this is not something that's just happening in the U.S. This isn't happening around the world today. And because of the incredible technologies that we have in place, and because of the mobile phones being widely distributed, cell phones, it's a great opportunity. And as I said, the cities will take advantage of it. I just had the general manager and VP of Intel on a show that I had a few weeks ago, and Samir Sharma, and we were talking about how smart these cities are becoming and how it can become a win-win. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, good to know about Miami because you brought that up. I was reading somewhere. I think they're investing heavily in startups as well.
Heavily. Heavily, Miami and Austin. The challenge, what's happening, Sonny, when you're in California, you have anywhere from 9 to 12% state income tax on as an individual, right?
Yeah.
And in Florida, there's none.
Right.
There's zero tax, so there's an advantage. The problem you have is that because you don't have such a concentration of technologists, it's really hard to find people to be able to work in your companies. The wages are less. The housing is dramatic. For instance, the housing in Miami, in this region, let's take a condo, for instance.
Yeah.
A condo here that would cost $300,000 or $400,000 in California could cost $2 million. So there's a dramatic difference between the pricing of the housing. So it's exciting to see these cities that are taking advantage of it. And Mayor Suarez, one of the examples, and the mayor of Boston are taking advantage of this opportunity. And the thing is, because of COVID, if it wouldn't be because of COVID, this would not have happened. This digital transformation, ability to do this would not have happened like it's happening today. It's incredible, actually.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. Talking about cities who are transforming themselves into smart cities with the help of technology, cities ready for major infrastructure, reinvestment, and modernization can embrace smart cities to become more secure, safe, resilient, and globally competitive. By championing smart cities, government finance officers can play a key role in urban reinvestment and modernization using fiscal policy, public-private partnership, and performance-based revenue models to enable the transformation to smart cities. So my next question is the role of government and public services in this. So let's start with Sailesh, who just had the budget 2021 for India.
Absolutely. No, I think, as both William and Gary mentioned, the role of governments is predominantly the most important, especially given that it's infrastructure, building cities, and then, I think the three key things which go into every smart city, right, is assessment, what is the requirement, and how do you generate that money back. And in India, we had actually defined a smart city mission, which is a centrally sponsored scheme where the state governments and the urban local bodies will have to contribute funds for the implementation of these projects as per this proposal, where matching funds will be provided by the central government to the tune of, I think, $30 billion to develop 100 cities in the next 5 years. And what's interesting is the same amount of funds have to be matched by the state governments to finish these projects and build model cities for the future. And it's a very interesting project, Sunny. Of course, for the COVID, things have been a little displaced. And, in the current budget, we again focus on industrialization, manufacturing, which is quite key for India, along with strengthening our rural infrastructure, which is going to be, again, very crucial in building tier 2, tier 3 cities and not just focus on the metro cities and call it development. And I think that's where we are trying to stabilize and distribute development progress across the country and not just prepare 100 cities, which cannot be just tier 1 or metro cities, but build cities across the country. And from a policy perspective, I think India has taken a stand in building these cities to ensure that we fight against, be it poverty, be it the increasing population and people moving from the rural places to urban cities. So we intend to bring back development, more jobs, more employment, and facilities, including sanitation, access to basic water, and other provisions in each of these cities, so that we can then start creating a much more, as you said, resilient and forward-moving India.
Wow, that sounds fantastic and very promising. Thank you, Sailesh, for that. So next I have William. William, you're going to take this question and share your presentation with this question, role of government and public services, or we do the presentation in the later half of the show. It's up to you.
If you have time, we can do later. Let's talk about government. I think the Malaysian government is very interesting. Okay, so they basically they are very good at building infrastructure. We have world-class airport, we have world-class roads. Okay, everything is first class, right? So we have to do it to them, right? So we are are really good in building. However, okay, there's always the other side. Is there's not enough traffic, for example. There's not enough demand for it. Okay, so being saying that our government now leave it to the private sector to drive it. Okay, so the government will give a lot of incentive. They will encourage private sector to do it while supporting from behind. So the private sector would then because at the end of the day, everything we do or even the master plan need to be approved. Okay, so but the government are very supportive in that. Right? So we are, for example, like I mentioned just now, we are invited for peace. We are invited to one of the best location that we can find, which is under TOD. Okay, the railway. Actually, the trains are built already. Okay, it's just that the market of the real estate in Malaysia is bad now because of the COVID situation. So we are just holding on to launching the project.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, William, for that. Next, I have Gary. Gary, again, same question. Role of government and public services in creating a smart city.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a win-win, right? There's got to be the politicians need to get some visibility. They need to have some successes. They need to show some real progress. So it's got to be a win-win. Like I said, in many of the cities that have these initiatives are doing some type of revenue share, and so they have money coming back to the city, and it gives them, in terms of political support, it helps them, and it also helps them build the consensus. So, in terms of it's got to be a win-win. It's got to be a situation where they can show that the city is benefiting and also the private sector is benefiting. Because if not, then it looks nefarious, right? If it's just a one-sided situation where somebody private's making all the money, then what's the real deal? So the situation is, let's make it a win-win. This has to happen. The citizens need to have these types of service. And the advancements, the countries, the cities that can move forward and technologically help the city grow are ones that are going to win, because they're going to create a lot of jobs. They're going to create a more pleasant infrastructure. They're going to make the services optimized for the citizens. And it's exciting. I mean, think about how archaic cities are, right? It's just incredible. I mean, even traffic lights themselves are only programmed every 8 years. Well, patterns change every day. It's crazy. So we need to step up.
You very rightly said traffic. Oh my God. There are some countries, some states in India, I think Shailesh would probably agree. It's a chaos. It's a mess. Okay, great. So the second half of the session, I would like to ask some use cases, startups, portfolio companies, portfolio startups from companies in your portfolio who are working in this space, and success stories coming out from there. Shailesh, something to share with us and audience?
Absolutely. I think one of our portfolio company, which is which has actually changed the way people work, is 91 Springboard in India, which is one of the largest co-working spaces. And we believe that we invested in them very early on when they were a one-stop shop in Delhi, is because we believed they redefined the way people should work, and also redefine the way that people should perceive the balance between life and your personal life as your professional life.
Right.
And I think that they've kind of catered to the Gen Z and the millennials in a way that they started to rethink of how is offers the right space to work, or what kind of environment do you really need around you to kind of challenge you and make you think more innovatively and creatively. Similarly, another company which we've been working and are quite excited, is an Israeli company which we're looking to scale up in India and work with. Is a company called Excelot, which is basically helping in cross-border logistics and has streamlined the entire process of supplying to not just tier 1 and metro cities in India, but also to tier 2 and growing cities within the country, as I just mentioned. So these are two of our portfolio companies we're quite bullish about, among many other. But we are currently also launching smart city program. It's called Indus X. As you all know, Indus civilization is the first well-defined, sophisticated civilization with everything laid out in a more systematic manner. And given post-COVID and sustainability, resilience, as the words Sony used, I think are quite important for the generations moving forward. So with that in mind, we are launching a program called Indus X, where we're going to open up to global aspirants, and we'll look at early growth stage companies with a proof of concept, some revenue and clientele to apply to this program, where we'll shortlist maybe 7 to 9 companies and help them scale up in India and Southeast Asia over a period of 6 months in a more structured manner. So that's our intent, where we look at courageous entrepreneurs take upon these challenging problems, which can help in scaling up to 100 smart cities in the next 5 years.
Wow, interesting insights, Shailesh. Thank you so much for sharing that. William, I would like to go next with you, and you obviously you can showcase some examples of success stories from your portfolio companies. With an example, you can share the screen and demonstrate that as well if you wish to. I mean, are we okay?
Yeah, I can share the screen just to showcase our project. But
Yes.
just to clarify, we are the startup here. So all my partners are the best of the best in the industry. We can't afford to make mistake, okay? Because we are the startup. Hold on, please. Let me get the file.
Okay, sure.
Right. I'm trying to find my file, which is not in the screen. Hold on, please.
Sure.
Okay, hold on, please, again. Okay, I'll just press entire screen. I'm not sure what you see. Just what did you see?
We don't see. We see your entire. Yeah, now we see that the EduTown at
Okay.
Cyber.
All right. Okay. Right. I'm not too familiar with. You can see the idea, right?
Yeah, we see it, William.
You see it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I mentioned. The start is version 6. Okay. So we have within 3 months of research myself, we come up with this proposal to the government for the land. Right. So Cyberjaya is the Silicon Valley of Malaysia. Our previous prime minister in the 90s actually gazetted this area to build the Silicon Valley. So there's a lot of incentive. You have 10 years tax break. This is supposed to be the talent pool of all the tech industry. Okay, so I'm sure everybody is familiar with the Twin Towers. Okay,
Yeah.
so from the Twin Towers on the left, you look at the green highway and you exit here. All right, Putrajaya is our administration city, and Cyberjaya is here. So our land is just exactly next to the highway. All right, and it's called the Cyber North. Okay, so this is 1,200 over acres of land, and we are actually in this sector, the north sector. Okay, so this is a transit development land, and this is Cyberjaya, the Silicon Valley of Malaysia. So most of the MNCs, the foreign companies, set up their offshore center here and their branch here. Okay, so this is our land. Okay, you can see these are in the master plan. This is the highway exit. Whoever exit this highway and want to go into Cyberjaya, they have to pass through this land. All right. So we actually built a lot of things on here to showcase to the world. Right. So this is the land. So one flat land and one on the hilly side. Okay. And you can see MRT is actually the train station. There's two. There's a university next to us, right? This is some satellite here, right? So this is our plan. Okay, this is components. The smart city side, we're going to do IoT, solar, okay, robotics, EV, and also data center at the bottom of the structure. Okay, and of course smart living, and of course the education town. So this is the first draft. This is before COVID, and now we are actually doing the second draft already.
Right.
Skip through all this. Okay. Yeah. So there's some reference. This is what we want to build: schools, okay, cities, right? So infrastructure and technology. Okay, let's talk about this because since there's a lot of technology entrepreneur here, we're trying to build as much of sustainability city here. So all the water collection all will go down to the tank inside. It will be used to recycle the plants and everything else. Okay. And since I'm already involved in the vertical farming last year, last quarter of the year, so now I actually asked my architect to see whether they can design a certain portion of the city to be vertical farms. Okay, so we estimate we might build 100,000 square feet of vertical farms in the city itself. And just to give you an illustration, 30,000 square feet of vertical farms can produce 1 ton of vegetables a day. So if we build 100,000 square feet here, we can produce about 3 tons of vegetable today in this city per day, right? So this is infra. So of course, this is on lifestyle, right? So unfortunately, I'm not a CTO, okay, but my partner can share a lot of technical stuff. From my side, is my responsibility is to work with companies and find ways and to add value to our city, okay. And let me stop share, right? And yes, we look forward to work with partners. Okay, our infrastructure most likely will be provided by Huawei, and we are trying to convince Huawei to take the tallest tower, take the 80-story tower, and build their 5G center of excellence here. Okay, but we are open to work with any parties in the smart city technology. We have spoke to a company that does CCTV. They say they can sell 500,000 units of CCTV to us. Company who sell sensors, right? Anything that we are open for collaboration. And because of the delay, we are back to the drawing board again. We can restart the whole structure or infrastructure planning again. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, William. Really, really promising. I mean, I have been to Sabaja before for blockchain conferences. I love Malaysia.
Yeah, we're gonna build a blockchain city, blockchain tower.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward for the green lane to be operational, I guess, so that I can just land in Malaysia. So, talking about budget, what's the budget like for these kind of projects, especially?
The whole project is 1.5 billion US. Okay, so in terms of budgeting, we need to raise at least just for the architecture planning and master plan, we need to spend about 3 million US. Okay, because we work with the established architects, and from the point now, from starting white piece of paper to a master plan being approved, that is about 3 million US for this size. Okay, and to go to the next stage, we need to raise at least 150 million US to build the first stage.
Wow.
Okay, and yeah, all in all, we need to raise about 700 million to 800 million. So if Elon Musk mentioned that he's going to create some solar window, remember? Okay.
Yeah.
So if the solar window panel is ready, the entire city will be on solar. All the windows will be on a solar panel.
Oh wow, that's incredible, to be honest. Thank you, William. Perfect. Great. So after that, I would like to move to Gary. Gary, any portfolio company under your venture, GSD, that you would like to share in this space? What fabulous things they've done in this space that you can share with the other speakers and our viewers today?
Yeah, sure. But I'd like to mention, one thing, because I think what William's doing is right on target. We started the first accelerator in Russia, and you got to plant seeds, right? The one thing, and I worked in Latvia building a project similar to what William's, not as ambitious as what William is trying to do, but ambitious. And so one of the things that I found, and we're working with Atlanta, we're working with Miami, we're working with Chicago today, is how can we make an incredible impact? So in order to get the politicians on board and willing to invest, how can we make an impact? So we take it a little bit differently. We said, from our standpoint, what we want to do is bring artificial intelligence and quantum companies there to create jobs, but at the same time, have some type of an impact. In my particular area, I've been working for 12, almost 13 years with the Black community, urban Black community in the US. So I said, why don't we bring people in that can be fellows and we can train them to be entrepreneurs? So find a high growth AI company, bring somebody in that's got from a disadvantaged background, whatever that is. And by the way, in Russia, I had half of my classes were female entrepreneurs because we really wanted to do it. And most of the time we paid for it out of our own pockets. So I think that, the key to building that smart city is to create the momentum, put some fuel in it, some rocket fuel to get it move forward faster. And one thing the politicians know when they start to see these companies coming in, they start to want to put their money where their mouth is. I've tried to do ambitious projects from the top down. It didn't work. But I found in these kind of projects from the bottom, well, top down works if you have political connections and but at the same time, you got to give them some fuel. And what I found is that there's an incredible opportunity for AI and quantum companies dropping them into a place like a Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, or Silicon Valley, of course, and actually start to prime the pump of the system, because then it starts making it easier to get those infrastructural pieces in place and get them committed to do it. And it's amazing because of the pandemic right now and the decentralization of opportunity that this is happening all over the planet, right? It doesn't matter really where you are because you're working at home today. And by the way, it's going to be in the future. It's going to be more of a hybrid type of model. It's going to be easier to do it. So that's one side of it. On the other side of it, and we talk about things like private-public partnerships. So imagine video security systems, cybersecurity. At the same time, I know we've talked about it before, things like missing children and having retailers set up in a particular metropolitan statistical area, a city, and all the stores in that particular city set up on the system to be able to help find kids, right, and expand it to other MSA. So those are the kind of things, getting government on board where it's something they're passionate about, finding that person, that champion that's passionate about it to help drive it through. And, as you know, we've had some success in those areas. That's something that's interesting for me. But what I'm finding is from the bottom up, bringing those jobs in, from the top down, getting the support from the, political infrastructure. It's not easy because you're dealing with people that, are doing it for different kinds of reasons. But the one thing they do understand is that if they're creating jobs, that it's going to be a good thing. And that's really from the bottom up. Again, I'm a country boy. We keep it simple. That's what we're looking at.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Gary, for sharing those insights with our audience and other entrepreneurs and founders in this space. Thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about challenges, because what I can visualize, these are very complex projects. You need support of the government, and when you have, you take William, obviously because of the COVID, your project got stopped or delayed. But there are other challenges as well beyond COVID. Let's talk about what are the challenges for paying for smart cities from our investor perspective, starting with Sailesh.
Sorry, Sunny, the question is, what are the challenges for the investor?
Yes, challenges for paying or investing for smart cities as an investor.
Right. I think predominantly it's, the support of the government and their belief in the project and sign off in terms of, be it from a policy perspective, be it allocation of funds, and the government itself backing the project through, be it gap funding or, viability gap funding project, without which the entire premise and the base of the project becomes completely difficult to scale up on or even get an ROI on. The other thing with every smart city project is to check the need for it and the purpose of the project and how viable is it from generating interest and also income from the project. So once you understand how you're able to generate income from the project, be it as my colleagues mentioned, could be advertising, it could be something as unique as lottery or a simple toll road or collecting more taxes from the people using it. I think there has to be some uniqueness in the way that you have a calculated ROI, and that is guaranteed by the government in some way or the other. So that's when it becomes a more viable project, without which dealing with the government, dealing with policymakers and politicians becomes quite a double-edged sword in terms of both the project capital and also your resources and time. But
Yeah.
from the aspect, as we just discussed earlier, and my colleagues had mentioned, it is quite the requirement of the hour for all the different stakeholders involved in a city to come together and build a more resilient ecosystem for, be it startups, be it other folks, to come in and build a unique project, a solution which can then be a more scalable one in nature.
Is it so? Is it more lucrative and profitable from both investors' perspective and a startup perspective? Do you think it's uh, lucrative to invest in such projects?
Sorry, could you just repeat that, Sunny?
Is it from an investor perspective? Do you think these investments into these kind of projects, where you have so many parties involved, like politicians, government, policymaker, do you think investing into such space is something that you look forward to as an investor, and startups find it profitable?
Absolutely. To answer your question, Swani, that is one of the most interesting arenas and areas for us right now, because we see, and politicians are not always the hindrance. There are some who really create the platform to, for most of these solutions come and scale up. But sometimes the citizens are also the challenge, because they are one of the most important stakeholders. If you bring in a unique solution, but no one's willing to use it, that also becomes a huge a backstep for the entrepreneur and the investor supporting, as well as the government official who is funding it or actually promoting it. So everyone has to come together, and it's definitely lucrative in terms of it improves our way of living, our economic factors, and basis on which our future generations can thrive and enthrall.
Yeah.
So if you ask if it's the dream of every investor to find a courageous entrepreneur going after a unique challenge, absolutely, because it can be scaled to not just a country but to many aspects of the world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Salesh, for sharing that insights. Next up, William. Same question. Challenges for invest. Like, you are on the other side now. You're sitting
Yeah.
in a startup side.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
challenges from investor perspective and also from a founder perspective. You can share
Okay.
those.
The first question that when I approach my investors to talk about the to raise money from them, first thing they ask me, "Are you sure, William?" Because they know me, they come to me to seek advice for finance or to raise money, right? For IPO or for whatever reason. And now I'm going back to them and say, hey, would you support my smart city? First question, are you sure? Second, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the first two questions that they ask me. Okay. And then of course the third question comes, you know how to do it. So I think the how or the what is not so important compared to the why. So why I want to do it is because there's a lot of projects working in silos. Okay. So there's a few reference that Malaysia has started the initiative of smart city probably 20 years ago. Okay,
Mm.
when our former prime minister actually won us to actually emulate Silicon Valley, right? So we have the MDAC, we have the multimedia super corridor status, a lot of talent pool to actually attract talent pool into Malaysia, right?
Mm.
So yes, there's a few projects, but unfortunately, also a lot of failed projects. Okay, I give you an example. One of the city that is quite near my place because we live in the Selangor state. Okay, yes, they promote it as an iCity and a smart city. Okay, but I can't even get the direction right when I go into the city. Right, the parking is confusing. I still need to press the button and collect a ticket. Right, a
Right.
lot of shopping malls in Malaysia has gone into ticketless. Okay, so there's a few smart city initiatives. So investor will benchmark to
Mm.
those and ask me, why do you think your project is different?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why before I present just now, I said because I'm a startup, I cannot work with startups, right? I have
Right.
to find all the industry or key players in this sector, okay, and work with them and leverage on their strength. Okay,
Right.
for example, Huawei. One of the companies that I work with is the biggest IoT company in Malaysia. Okay, they work with IBM, for example.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we are also exploring to work with them to adopt IBM because IBM actually designed the Iskandar Malaysia framework. Okay, Okay, so
Yes.
if you invest in Iskandar, you know, right? So there's a lot of questions surrounding the macro, but then come back to micro. The next thing is, how do you sell 10,000 square feet of real estate?
Yeah.
Yes, it's easy to build because you just build, but then how do you sell, right? Don't forget, an apartment is only 1,000 square feet, right? So now
Yeah.
we have a 10 million square feet city to sell, all right? So if you talk to buyers, yes, they might be fascinated by the technology, right? Oh, you have all this wow factor, but at the end, this technology moves very fast, right? If you go China now, you don't even need to take out your phone or your wallet. Just put your face on the camera, they scan your iris, and your payment goes through. You can take whatever you stuff in the shop already. So there's no unmanned shop already. All right, all payment will go through, and there's how so many sensors or CCTV in China cities that the crime rates are so low now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So there's a lot of innovation in this space. But at the end of the day, the question always posed to me is, how do you sell your real estate? Okay,
Yeah.
how do you attract people to your smart city, right? So that is the key challenges, lah. And how do we justify for the investment?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, right on the point, William. I mean, yes, I can foresee those challenges as well myself. Thank you so much, Gary. Over to you, please. Let's talk about some challenges from both an investor and a startup perspective.
Yeah, I liked what William said. You know, I just was thinking that's called a dumb smart city.
Things don't work.
Yeah, you know, it's nothing. It's was an oxymoron, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Well, I've seen that too. It's like the craziest thing. You have this most advanced cities in the world, and the things that should be simple, like parking, don't exist. How can it be? You know what I mean? Or you get the ticket coming in. I know exactly the situation. You get a ticket. Why don't they have like an app and that kind of thing? It's
Yeah.
crazy. So you gotta practice what you preach. So the challenge is, typically politicians don't want to take risks. I'll never forget. I had this directly happen to me one time. A very high level politician told me about doing an initiative is that we will be supportive if you're successful.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I took it as a challenge,
Right.
because I knew I could do it. So I said, now I'm just going to hold your feet to the fire. So if I do this, we're going to go out and have drinks and you're buying. We agree? And he said, yeah, I agree. Now, he didn't think in a million years that I would ever put this deal together. And I did it. I never forget going back to his office. I never forget it. I said, well, guess what? I'm going to take you. I'm still going to go out with you, but I'll buy you the drinks because it's pretty funny. I said, and we went out. We became very good friends after that. But the challenge is they don't want to take risks. And so one of the reasons that I said about actually seeding these cities with some startups to begin with is because it takes the risk off of them. They can say, hey, listen, jobs are being created. There's some type of proof that, it's almost like customer discovery and it validates your assumptions that it's going to work. So that's why I do it. The problem is they're not risk takers. They're not really forward thinking. They're trying to think about how they can get votes, right? It's how can they get votes? Well, if you create jobs, votes come. So you got to think in their kind of mentality. And, they don't want to give you a lot, but they do want exposure. So if you can give them good visibility, I had one situation with a mayor of a very large U.S. city. And the reason he decided to do it in that case, is because, and it wasn't with this Miami thing we're talking about. It was another one.
Right.
He wanted the visibility. That's it. He got the newspapers and everybody come in. And you know what happened? It was pretty funny. It became his initiative, not the one we put together. And so he was talking about it. I had to give him bullet points for him to talk about. I felt like a director. So, you got to understand where they're coming from. I think it's a great opportunity right now because each one of them understands that in order to be able to really take ground over the next 10 to 20 years, that their cities have to make light years, a quantum leap forward in order to be able to do it. So they understand that. and it's just about pushing them a bit and giving them success and some visibility, and it'll work. It ain't easy, but if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can obviously vouch for that as well. I can see a lot of challenges, but yes, there you go. That's where you come in. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you so much, William and Sailesh. Let's take some closing remarks before we end the show. So closing remarks, I would like to start with Sailesh first.
Right. So, no, as I always said, Sunny, I think we strongly believe in smart cities, and it's private partnerships are crucial for smart cities to happen globally. At the same time, finding unique practices to ensure that the smart cities are taken ownership by all the stakeholders, but not by one specific person, really enables it to become a reality and a scalable opportunity, which, as Gary mentioned, then all the stakeholders can take their own stake to claim. And we're all happy to lay back and reap the returns as investors. But yeah, I think it's need of the hour, and nothing more crucial for this decade than to focus on smart cities and make living a thing of the future for cities, a thing for every citizen of every part of the world.
Great noble cause, right? Thoughts, sorry. Sailesh. Next, I have William. Closing remarks, please.
Thanks. I just want to quote from Gary just now. If it's easy, then everybody will be doing it. So exactly what we feel. So there's only, if you look at, if you ask anybody who is building smart city in Malaysia, probably a handful, right? But if you ask who is providing smart city solutions, startups in providing the services, there's so many, right? So I'm not the smartest in class in terms of technology, so I can't compete in that sector. Okay, but if I spend my effort in building a city itself and to think what people needs, okay, I think it's driven by humans, right? Why they want to be in the city compared to a park, for example, living by the beach, right? Why they want to be in our smart city? There must be a reason. So I'm trying and still refining how to achieve that so that people will start buying my real estate. Thank you very much.
Right. That's a good key. Was that USP to sell? Thank you so much, William. Gary, over to you, please, with closing remarks for the show.
Yeah, in order for cities to meet the challenge of this century, they're going to need to move forward very, very quickly in order to stay competitive. And the cities that don't really step up to this challenge are going to be left behind. And the one thing I can say is the opposite of a smart city is a dumb city. And I'm sure nobody wants to be labeled that. So I think, it's getting the stakeholders on board, getting them, making sure that you have their interest in mind and understanding that they want the visibility, stay behind and, and reap the rewards from the partnership. Make sure it's a win-win for everybody and make sure that everybody's treated fairly and it'll be a great partnership for the future.
Absolutely. Great words, Gary. Win-win. That's very important. Thank you so much for your insights today. And entrepreneurs and founders in the space who like to share their ideas to these investors, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of the show, right on time. I'm back tomorrow, same time, with new set of speakers and a new topic. Till then, stay safe, take care of yourself, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.